Hello, this is Agnish Bhaduri from Visitech Solutions, and welcome to the fourth video in the cryptocurrency series. In this video, we will be looking at some of the common questions and answers relating to Bitcoin. I have accumulated a list of common Q&A that I've read about and heard from people over the past year of my research on this new technology. So let's start with the first one. And this is a very common question. How are new Bitcoins minted or mined? So new Bitcoins are generated by a competitive and decentralized process called Bitcoin mining. This process involves that individuals are rewarded by the network for their services. Bitcoin miners are processing transactions and securing the network using specialized hardware and are collecting new Bitcoins in exchange. The Bitcoin protocol is designed in such a way that new Bitcoins are created at a fixed rate. This makes the Bitcoin mining a very competitive business. When more miners join the network, it becomes increasingly difficult to make a profit, and miners must seek efficiency to cut their operating costs. No central authority or developer has any power to control or manipulate the system to increase their profits. Every Bitcoin node in the world will reject anything that does not comply with the rules it expects the system to follow. Bitcoins are created at a decreasing and predictable rate. The number of new Bitcoins created each year is automatically halved over time until Bitcoin issuance halts completely at a total of 21 million Bitcoins in existence. At this point, Bitcoin miners will probably be supported exclusively by numerous small transaction fees. The next question is, can Bitcoins become worthless? Well, the short answer is yes. History is littered with currencies that have failed and are no longer used, such as the Deutschmark during the Weimar Republic, and more recently, the Zimbabwean dollar. Although previous currency failures were typically due to hyperinflation, an issue that the Bitcoin does not face, there is always potential for technical failures, competing currencies, political issues, and so on. As a basic rule of thumb, no currency should be considered safe from failures or hard times. Bitcoin has proven reliable for years since its inception, and there's a lot of potential for the Bitcoin to continue to grow. But let us remember that for any currency, even if it is non-inflationary in nature, it can become worthless if it is no longer considered a legal tender, which can happen with the Bitcoin if more and more governments keep banning this particular currency. So the next question is, won't the finite number of Bitcoins be an issue if we want to legalize it as a legal tender all around the world? Well, the Bitcoin is unique in that it only has 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be mined or created. However, this is never a limitation because transactions can be denominated in smaller subunits of a Bitcoin, such as bits. One Bitcoin can be divided into 1 million units and up to 8 decimal points, and potentially even smaller units if that is ever required in the future as the average transaction size decreases. The next question, won't Bitcoin fall in a deflationary spiral? The deflationary spiral theory says that if prices are expected to fall, people will move purchases into the future in order to benefit from the lower prices. That fall in demand will in turn cause merchants to lower their prices to try and stimulate demand, making the problem worse and leading to an economic depression. Although this theory is a popular way to justify inflation among central bankers, it does not appear to hold true and is considered controversial even amongst economists. Consumer electronics is one example of a market where prices constantly fall, but one which is not in depression. Similarly, the value of Bitcoins has risen over time, and yet the size of the Bitcoin economy has grown dramatically along with it. Because the value of the currency and the size of its economy started at zero in 2009, Bitcoin is a counterexample to the theory showing that it must sometimes be wrong. Notwithstanding this, Bitcoin is not designed to be a deflationary currency. It is more accurate to say that Bitcoin is intended to inflate in its early years, become stable in its later years. The only time the quantity of Bitcoins in circulation will drop is if people carelessly lose their wallets by failing to make backups. With a stable monetary base and a stable economy, the value of the currency should remain the same. The next question: isn't speculation and volatility a problem for Bitcoin? For Bitcoin's price to stabilize, a large-scale economy needs to develop with more businesses and users. For a large-scale economy to develop, businesses and users will seek for price stability. Fortunately, volatility will not affect the main benefits of the Bitcoin as a payment system to transfer money from point A to point B. It is possible for businesses to convert Bitcoin payments to their local currency instantly, allowing them to profit from the advantages of the Bitcoin without being subjected to price fluctuations. Since the Bitcoin offers many useful and unique features and properties, many users will choose to use Bitcoin. With such solutions and incentives, it is possible that the Bitcoin will mature and develop to a degree where price volatility will become limited. So the next question: what if someone bought up all the existing Bitcoins? This is a really interesting doubt. To answer this, only a fraction of the Bitcoins issued to date are found on the exchange markets for sale. Bitcoin markets are competitive, meaning the price of a Bitcoin will rise or fall depending on supply and demand. Additionally, new Bitcoins will continue to be issued for decades to come. Therefore, even the most determined buyer could not buy all the Bitcoins in existence. The situation isn't to suggest, however, that the markets aren't vulnerable to price manipulation. It still doesn't take a lot of money to move the market price up or down, and thus Bitcoin remains a volatile asset thus far. Next question: what if someone creates a better digital currency? Well, that can happen. In fact, there are thousands of more cryptocurrencies than the Bitcoin. For now, Bitcoin remains by far the most popular decentralized virtual currency. But there can be no guarantee that it will retain that position. As I mentioned, there are already a set of alternative currencies which are inspired by Bitcoin, such as Ethers, Ripple, etc. It is, however, probably correct to assume that significant improvements would be required for a new currency to overtake the Bitcoin in terms of established market, even though this remains highly unpredictable. Bitcoin could also conceivably adopt improvements of a competing currency, so long as it doesn't change the fundamental parts of the protocol. The last question in this video is a really interesting one, and one that I've encountered on several conferences. It is, aren't cryptocurrencies simply reversals to the barter system? This is a really interesting question, and the answer is, it is in a nutshell, because essentially, we are providing services and goods to the system or the economy and receiving goods and services in return, except here we are monetizing the value of those goods and services in a new form of cryptocurrency. This may sound like the barter system, but it is not much different than the system we follow today. We are using a common unit of value to quantify and validate different goods and services. Thus, you can call it a barter system with the advantages of the current system and fixing upon the flaws of the current system by making it more accurate, more transparent, and giving more power to the people. So thank you, and stay tuned for the next chapter, the future outlook for Bitcoins.